Yeah.
It's humble beginnings.
Yeah, we got to start with, well, before the bicycle, there was this thing called the velocipede.
But velocipede, okay, I've heard that word before, but I'll admit I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
So picture basically a simpler contraption
Okay.
that didn't even have pedals.
No
No
pedals.
pedals. You basically just scooted around.
Foot powered, like the Flintstones.
Exactly. Is the Flintstones style of transportation.
That's a great workout, I'm sure, but not exactly the most efficient way to get around.
Not at all.
So how do we go from
Yeah.
foot-powered scooting to like the bikes we all know and love?
Well, there's this company, Michaud, in France.
Right.
They play a big part in this story. And there were these two brothers, René and Aimé Olivier.
Okay.
And they really believed in the potential of this thing, the velocipede. So much so that in 1865, they decided to ride velocipedes over 500 miles.
Wait, 500 miles on those things? It's insane.
From Paris to Marseille.
Talk about dedication. I can barely handle 5 miles on my fancy modern bike.
They definitely believed in it.
Yeah.
But their journey, it wasn't just like a random adventure. It really captured the public's imagination.
I bet. It's like a publicity stunt from another century,
Mm.
but a smart one.
And that's when things really started to, take off. The Oliviers, they realized, hey, pedals. We're missing pedals.
Ah, the light bulb moment. Pedals would make this whole thing a lot easier.
Right. So they add pedals to the velocipede.
Smart move.
They give it that iron frame,
Uh-huh.
and boom, the bone shaker is born.
The bone shaker. And were they, like, being literal with the name?
Oh, yeah. They weren't kidding about the bone shaking part.
I bet. Iron wheels on those cobblestone streets?
Yeah.
Oof, I can imagine.
Makes you appreciate those smooth rides we have today.
Big time. But, those early cyclists, they were tough.
They were a different breed.
So the bone shaker, bumpy ride and all, it really took off in Paris.
It ignited a craze. We're talking over 100 companies all manufacturing these things.
Wow, velocipedomania, that's a mouthful.
It's like the 1860s version of like a tech startup boom.
That's wild. So this bone shaker craze, did it lead to any other innovations?
Oh, absolutely. The surge in popularity, it led to some key improvements.
Okay, like what? Give me the highlights.
Ball bearings.
Okay, for a smoother ride.
Exactly. Tension-spoked wheels for a more robust design.
Makes sense.
And get this, the freewheel.
Wait, the freewheel, like being able to coast.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Those poor bone shaker riders could only dream of coasting.
Coasting is like the ultimate cycling freedom.
Right.
It's so interesting to see how each innovation like paves the way for the next.
That's constant evolution.
It is. So we've got all this happening in Paris. What's going on over in America at this time?
Well, news travels.
It does, even back then.
And pretty soon, word of this Parisian velocipedomania made its way across the Atlantic.
Did America catch bicycle fever too?
Oh, they did, especially on the East Coast.
Yeah.
American manufacturers, they popped up,
Yeah,
eager to get in on the action.
I bet. There's money to be made in bicycles. Or so they thought.
And they even published the world's first cycling newspaper.
No way. A whole newspaper just about bicycles.
The Velocipedist, right there in New York City.
Wow, that's commitment. America was really giving Paris a run for its money in terms of like bicycle enthusiasm.
For a while, it seemed that way.
Yeah.
Just like Paris, roller skating rinks were being transformed into these indoor riding academies.
That's so cool. So what happened? Why don't we still have indoor riding academies?
Well, this first American bicycle boom,
Yeah.
it was sadly short-lived.
Oh, what went wrong? Did Americans suddenly decide they preferred horses and carriages after all?
Not quite. You see, those early bone shakers,
Yeah.
as groundbreaking as they were,
Yeah,
they were still a far cry from the bicycles that we know today.
that's true. They were pretty rough. Okay, so not great for long distances. What else contributed to their downfall?
Well, there was this whole issue with a guy named Calvin Whitty.
Calvin Whitty, who was this guy and what'd he do?
Okay, so Whitty, he held the patent for the bone shaker.
Okay, so far so good. I mean, patents protect inventors, right?
Right, but Whitty, he decided to charge a $10 royalty fee on every single bicycle sold.
$10 a bike.
Yeah.
Back then, that's outrageous.
That was a lot of money back then.
No wonder the brakes got slammed on the American bicycle boom. So with Whitty's patent, like throwing up roadblocks, what happened next? Did the evolution of the bicycle just like come to a screeching halt?
Not at all. While America was dealing with, patent issues and the limitations of the bone shaker,
Uh-huh.
a new chapter was about to begin across the pond.
Okay, now you've got me on the edge of my seat. A new chapter, a significant leap forward. This has got to be the penny farthing, right?
You got it.
That iconic high wheeler.
The penny farthing.
I can't wait to hear how that came about.
With its massive front wheel and its elegant design,
Yeah.
it was definitely a game changer. But to really understand its significance, we need to rewind a bit
Okay.
and talk about a man named James Starley, who had become known as the father of the cycle trade.
James Starley. I've heard the name. Didn't he play a big role in the development of the penny farthing?
A huge role. But before we get into Starley's genius and the rise of the penny farthing, let's just take a second to appreciate how far the bicycle had come
Yeah.
in such a short time.
It's amazing, right?
From those first clunky bone shakers to a thriving industry on both sides of the Atlantic.
Really remarkable.
The bicycle was already well on its way to transforming transportation.
And capturing the world's imagination.
You know, when you look at a penny farthing,
Yeah.
it's easy to just see that giant front wheel
Right.
and nothing else.
Yeah, it's like the defining feature.
Right. But you got to remember,
Okay.
this was the 1870s,
Okay.
a time way before gears and chains
Right.
like we have now.
Yeah. No fancy gears back then?
No.
Okay, so
If you wanted speed,
yeah.
it was all about the size of your front wheel.
So bigger the wheel.
Exactly.
Farther you go with each pedal stroke.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it was like the smoothest ride.
Let's just say it took a bit of skill
Okay.
and a bit more balance
I bet.
than maybe your average rider had.
Right.
And that's where James Starley comes in.
Okay, our father of the cycle trade.
Exactly. So Starley, he really understood how that whole speed thing worked
Yeah.
with the size of the wheel.
Right.
And he wanted to create a bicycle that was fast,
Okay.
but also like well-engineered.
Right. So not just about size, it's about design.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so he comes out with this model
Yeah.
in 1871
Okay.
called the Ariel.
The aerial. Okay.
And it had this huge 48-inch front wheel.
Wow. 48 inches. That's huge.
Yeah, and then a 30-inch rear wheel.
Oh, wow. So still a significant difference.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And this model became like the blueprint
Okay.
for the penny farthing.
Wow. So the aerial really set the stage
It did.
for what the penny farthing would become.
Yeah, and Starley didn't stop there.
Okay.
He kept tinkering,
Always innovating.
always improving the bearings,
Yeah.
refining the frames, really like pushing the boundaries
Pushing the limits.
of bicycle design.
Yeah, a true innovator.
Exactly. And I think that's a big part of why he earned that title.
Right. The father of the cycle trade.
Father of the cycle trade, yeah.
So it's interesting
Yeah.
because as Starley's like revolutionizing bicycle design,
Right.
the whole center of bicycle manufacturing is shifting too.
It is.
It's moving from Paris
Yeah.
to, of all places, Coventry, England.
Country, yeah.
Which seems random. What was it about Coventry?
It does seem random.
Yeah.
But it actually kind of was the perfect storm of circumstances.
Okay, so how did Coventry become like bicycle central?
So Coventry already had all these skilled metal workers from their watch and sewing machine industries.
So they had the craftsmanship
Yes,
to work with these like intricate metal parts
exactly. They had the expertise.
what you needed for bicycles.
Yes, precisely.
Okay, so skilled labor, check.
Check. And then there was another factor,
Okay.
Britain's embrace of industrialization.
Okay, so they were ahead of the curve.
They were at the forefront of all those mass production techniques.
So they could make more bikes.
More bikes, faster,
efficiently.
more efficiently, and cheaper.
Okay, so it makes sense now.
Right.
Coventry had the workforce, they had the industry,
Yeah.
and they had that like vision to become this bicycle manufacturing hub.
Yeah. They had the vision.
That's really cool. But okay, let's talk about the penny farthing itself.
Okay.
Because for all its advancements,
Yeah.
it wasn't without its drawbacks, right?
for sure.
I mean, that height alone.
Right. So
Yeah.
let's just say that mounting
Okay.
and dismounting
Yeah,
a penny farthing was a skill.
I bet. An art form.
It was an art in itself.
I've seen the pictures perched on top of that wheel.
You had to have balance
Yeah.
and courage.
It looks terrifying. Like a high wire act, not transportation.
Yeah, and don't forget,
Okay.
right? Those wheels meant you were pretty far off the ground.
Right.
So hit a bump, lose your balance.
Yeah, not good.
You're in for a rough fall.
It's amazing anyone rode those things without helmets. Actually, there were no helmets, were there?
No helmets back then.
Wow. It makes you realize how far bike safety's come.
Right.
Yeah, so safety wasn't exactly top priority.
It wasn't their main concern.
But despite all that, the risks,
Yeah.
the penny farthing, elegant design, the speed, it became a status symbol,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
like a marker of prestige
FL.
and like modern, like you were living in the future.
Absolutely.
Which is so cool. So the penny farthing, it's a technological marvel,
Right.
but also this cultural phenomenon,
It was.
which is so interesting.
Yeah.
But it sounds like its design, as innovative as it was, had limitations.
It did.
Right. And those limitations would eventually lead to its downfall.
I definitely played a role. Yeah.
Right. So as cool as the penny farthing was,
Yeah.
it wasn't accessible to everyone. Right. It was expensive,
Expensive. Yeah.
difficult to ride,
Hard to ride.
and let's be real, kind of dangerous.
A little bit dangerous.
So it sounds like the stage was set for a new kind of bicycle.
It was.
One that was safer and more accessible.
Exactly.
Enter the safety bicycle,
Yes.
which the name kind of speaks for itself.
It does. Right.
And it feels like a turning point
It was.
in the history of the bicycle, where it went from this like niche hobby
Right.
to a mainstream form of transportation.
Exactly.
But before we get into that revolution, I think it's important to take a moment to appreciate how far the bicycle had come, you know, from those clunky bone shakers to this.
It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. All right, so the safety bicycle, it sounds like it really lived up to its name, making bikes like accessible for everyone.
It did, yeah. You remember all those risks we talked about?
Oh, yeah. The penny farthing.
Yeah.
Way too easy to fall off that thing.
Exactly. All those, like the height, the mounting, the dismounting,
Yeah, it was a
the
process.
safety bicycle really addressed those head on.
So it wasn't like just tweaking the penny farthing design.
It was a whole new thing.
Okay, so what did they come up with?
2 wheels, same size.
Okay, so no more giant front wheel.
Nope. Both the same.
Interesting.
A chain drive to power the rear wheel.
Ah, making it more efficient.
Exactly. And a diamond-shaped frame.
I know that frame. For strength and stability.
Exactly.
So you're telling me
Yeah,
no more acrobatics just to get on a bike.
pretty much.
What a concept. So simple, but so revolutionary.
It was. And, you know, it wasn't just safer.
Yeah.
The safety bicycle, it was more comfortable to ride, too.
Right, because who wants a bumpy ride?
And it was cheaper to produce.
Which is a game changer.
Right. It really opened up cycling to a lot more people.
It really did. The bicycle wasn't like a luxury item anymore. It
Yeah.
was like a real practical way to get around.
Exactly. Yeah, for everyday people.
It's so cool how one key innovation can change everything.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect.
Totally. And speaking of innovation, what about the pneumatic tire?
Oh, that was huge.
Because that came after the safety bicycle, right?
It did, yeah.
Okay, just making sure I had the timeline right. But wait, wasn't that like invented by a vet?
It was John Dunlop.
Okay, last time I checked, vets take care of animals, not bicycles.
I know, right? Sometimes the best innovations come from the most unexpected places.
It's true. Okay, so John Dunlop, he's a vet.
It was, yeah.
And he's got this idea for a smoother ride.
Right. He was just trying to make a better ride for his son on his tricycle.
That's so sweet.
So he puts these like air-filled tires on the wheels.
Okay, so he basically invented the tire as we know it.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that didn't just change bicycles, it changed cars too.
Right. I mean, it's amazing
That's huge.
to think about the impact
Yeah.
of that one invention.
Yeah, and it all started like with a dad wanting to make things better for his kid.
I know, it's a great story.
It is. But okay, so we've got the pneumatic tire, the safety bicycle. These innovations, they weren't just about making bikes better.
Right.
They changed society, right?
He did.
Like, especially for women.
Especially for women.
Because this is at a time when,
Right.
like, women's roles were so limited.
Right. They weren't as free as they are now.
Exactly. So the
Yeah.
bicycle must have been really powerful.
It was huge for women's mobility
Yeah.
and their, role in society.
Because suddenly they could go places.
They could go places, they could do things
Yeah.
they couldn't do before.
Yeah, and they didn't need anyone to take them.
Exactly. It was freedom.
It's incredible to think about, like,
It is.
something as simple as a bicycle
Right.
having that much impact.
It's a powerful thing.
It really is. So from those early clunky bone shakers to the safety bicycle
Right.
and, innovations like the pneumatic tire,
Yeah.
it's been quite a journey.
It has.
The bicycle has come a long way.
A long way.
And I think what I really love about this story
Yeah.
is that it shows, like, human ingenuity.
Yeah.
and our constant desire to improve, to innovate.
It's incredible.
And it makes you wonder, where will the bicycle go next?
It really does.
What amazing innovations are still to come? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the history of the bicycle. Until next time, keep those wheels turning.